Hey, and welcome back to Talos Principle.
These worlds, and we within them, are made of words. Hidden words, invisible to you, yet part of all things. We are a story. Your actions give life to the story, and the story gives meaning to your life.
Thanks, Elohim. So, last time we finished this area and I reloaded the checkpoint because there was a, like this little speech there happened before I could press the record button. So I hope this is now properly on the recording. In any case, there's a reason why I'm still here. And that is, during my editing, I actually noticed that I missed some text here. Was it behind this one? It was like one... No, wait. It was when I came into this area. There was like one of those QR codes. Yeah, this one. I missed that one. I find myself in a world of impossible architecture and inexplicable machines. I cannot fathom how it works, and I'm terrified to put one foot in front of the other, lest I fall through the floor. 1W/faith version 10.1.0000. Okay, this is definitely an earlier version. Also need to lower the volume on my end just slightly. Interesting. I feel like we could have read that one a little bit earlier. Obviously, we got a lot of lore in the last episode, and this time around I actually want to check out the second area because obviously at this point we have made quite some progress here, right? Like, and we got some parts, and we are practically done in this area. There was some talk about like some secret areas, and I'm not sure if I missed something here. Might be a possibility, but I'm just gonna assume that I have everything I can find for now. Also, I'm slightly worried. I'm always going to check like on the side here. When I loaded for the first time, for some reason the loading screen overloaded the encoder on my OBS, which basically just would have ruined a few seconds of my recording. So I am always a bit cautious about that because I kind of changed something about the setup. Just a little warning in case like something's kind of scuffed. It's probably just me editing around something should something happen. In any case, I don't think we have like all the parts we need for these devices over here. I still don't really know what they are all about, and I also, for now at least, I don't really want to know. Also, by the way, more statues without heads. I don't know if I noted that last time. Wait, I can zoom? That's neat. Isn't that the spore thing on there? Isn't that what the... was it Romans always wrote? Again, I'm not really like much into... Wait. Aren't we in Greek mythology? Am I... To be fair, they are somewhat related. But still, am I overthinking things here? I might have to check my very accurate history thingies that I've definitely known about. No, but seriously, I don't really know how to get those out yet, so I'm gonna assume that we can do that once we're done with the second area. Let's see what awaits us on the other side of this very bright light.
Let this be our covenant. These worlds are yours, and you are free to walk amongst them and subdue them. But the great tower, there you may not go. For in the day that you do, you shall surely die.
What big tower? Can I see something? I mean, it's nice that we are free to explore, except for the tower. Also, look at that screen. I'm gonna check the lore out in a second. I first wanna look around. Though? What was that noise? Is it like an insect flying around? Maybe. I kind of want to see because there's like some more light. This looks kind of like a... No, wait, this isn't a teleporter. Like floating cart?
When I was a little girl, one of our teachers, Mrs. Higgins, told us to make a time capsule, write letters to the future, so one day we could remember what it was like to be children. I thought it was stupid, so I didn't do it, which I really regret. So, I guess I'm gonna make one now. Bury it in the archive instead of under a tree. I don't know if anybody will ever find it, but somehow it seems important to keep talking, to keep thinking, for as long as I can.
That wasn't too long, actually, if that was the longest that you could. So this is an audio recording? Can I listen to it? Time Capsule 1, okay. Makes sense, right? That, okay, I have to agree. Like, I feel like if I, as a child, had been told that I should have made, like, a time capsule about, like, and I talk about, like, where I am in life and talk to, like, my future self, I would have thought that was stupid. I obviously never did something like that, right? Like, I never really wrote, like, a diary. I tried in the past, or, like, a journal, or whatever you want to call it, but I forget about it, and then it just got lost. And I genuinely feel like it would be interesting to see how I felt in the past. Obviously, these videos at this point are a window back into my past, like, somewhere down the line they are going to be. Look at all those statues without heads. Isn't it great? But it is something to think about, right? You know, that's why you just keep on talking and thinking, I guess. In any case, I feel like there are like a lot of puzzle pieces. There's something specific I want to get. I don't know. I could, like, you know, refer to the one above me. I would need like a yellow key piece, I'm gonna call it. We do have some else. I guess we can just go wherever. That's like the main thing, right? It's like so free where you can just go to like the next puzzle. It's, if it weren't for the fact that they told me that there are puzzles, like not puzzles, but secrets here, I would probably assume that this could also just be a level select. But this is awfully pretty, actually. Look at that island over there. Can I swim? Wait. Is this broken glass or is this just like green stones? I'm guessing stones. Look like a broken bottle for some reason. Anyway, can I swim? I can. Wait. You said something in the beginning there were words? I thought I would break there because I heard like some zapping there.
The beginning were the words, and the words made the world.
Huh? What? Is that what happens if I go over there? In general, I'm guessing I got teleported back. In the beginning there were the words and the... Wait, let me read the subtitles completely. And the words made the world. Huh. I mean, there seems to be a big emphasis on the characters or like the sigils that we're finding, because they're like the language for this world, basically. Not quite sure what I was supposed to think about that. Look at the trees rendering in once I zoom in. Interesting. I don't know what this area over there is, though. I don't know, maybe this is just like one of the other areas that I can explore if I just take the teleporter? I don't think this is the first area, because the first area had like a lot of land around it. So I'm gonna assume that this is at least not the first one, if I am true in my assumption. And I know I could definitely solve some puzzles here, but I'm actually kind of more curious about the area in general and exploring that one. I mean, the other question is this related to me going closer to that island, or can I go to any other place, right? Like over there's like just the open ocean. Okay. I do like that they're saying that they're repeating. Okay, so I talked about this, like Elohim as the god here in this world. How I was kind of confused about them being so fascinated by ruins. Like in the last episode, I think I talked about that. It's been a few days since I last recorded, but yeah, this makes a lot more sense. Obviously, we are a robot in that sense, but it seems like we are more in a digital world as well, which would explain like the teleporters, right? Like the zeros and the ones and all that stuff in like the temple as well. And it seems to be just that Elohim is basically telling us that there are areas that are defined and areas that are not defined, and like going into the water, we are going into an undefined area. There are apparently places I can just continue. How far away can I go? Because like there seems to be like this glitchy effect whenever I go to like a specific place, but I'm guessing it might just be distance here, but it felt like I could go so much further here. There were like other areas where I basically just stepped into the water just briefly and I already got like the frizzles. So I'm gonna assume that we are to stay on the island. I'm not gonna play around too much with that. I should have probably checked out the computer in the beginning. I got distracted, I'm sorry about that. Oh, these paintings at least have some heads. That's interesting. Look at the dog. What do you have to say, my friend? Are you struggling to translate that? Do you have to press a button? No, right? Huh? Did I break something, or is this just like something that I can't read? It seems kind of smudged, right? Like, I'm guessing this is probably a broken QR code then. Right? Like, normally you have like straight lines, because obviously like every single square on there is basically a bit of information. Right, so like if I'm using a camera and I'm looking at that one, like I don't actually know which way it works, right? Like a black would mean like a 1 and a blank space would be a 0, or like vice versa. And obviously you have like the three, like the double squares, I'm gonna call it, right? Like the square with the outline, just so your camera knows which direction it has to read like all of the code in here. But otherwise, I'm guessing it's just broken, okay. Do I want to start with the other one? No, I'm gonna start here, just because I am here already. I like being confused because I get stuff in the wrong order. Okay, loading the library session. There's an error log. The human machine HTML, okay. I don't know why you are saving a website. At this point, by the way, like I looked when the game released and I completely forgot about it again. I think it was like around mid-2010s. So this would have been the future at that point, but obviously this is the remaster, which only released this year, I think. Anyway, let's see. First, let's start off with some errors. Cannot load archive 1667 CE. So common error, I'm guessing. F457. Milton John. A lot of code seems to be in hex, okay, hexadecimal, because you always have like the doubles and there's also like an F in there, so I'm not gonna math it out. That day I oft remember when from sleep I first awakened. Interesting choice of words, I guess. Awaked and found myself reposed. A lot of missing stuff in here, under a shade on flowers. Much wondering where and what I was, whence thither abroad and how. Unknown error. Now I'm kind of curious. So I'm guessing this could be ASCII code. Would make sense since it's like two hexadecimal numbers, right? Could you translate that? Just using ASCII. Would be interesting to check out. I might actually do that. I mean, I have it on recording. Like, if there's like something interesting here, I'm gonna talk about that like in the next recording session. But I'm just gonna assume that you Milton John. Is that the name I should know, by the way? Like, if this is like something about like literature, going by the name probably more English literature, then I obviously don't know about it. But might have to Google that. Alright. Just gonna leave it here for now. Okay, we have the human machine. Topic 3. One day you discover that you are not a human being but a machine. Your life so far was real. No one controlled you or programmed you to behave in some specific way. Your physical and mental capacities are identical to those of an organic human being. but you were created in a lab. No one except you knows about this. Your family, your friends, they all think you are a regular human being like themselves. You could continue to live your life the way you have before and nothing would change. How do you react? Pay specific attention to these questions. Does your concept of yourself change? Are you the same person you thought you were? And B, does your understanding of the world itself change? Interesting. I'm just gonna assume that there's like no correct answer because we're like in a more philosophical game in that sense, from my understanding. This obviously kind of starts at the very beginning and the understanding of like what you are yourself, right? Which I find like really fascinating, like as a prompt here, because like you were not programmed to behave in a specific way, but I feel like this is obviously a lie if you're like a robot. But I would actually go even further. Even though there's like no, how do I put it? I at least don't believe like in a creator. And I do not believe that we were like made to do something specific in that sense. But we are still biochemical machines, right? I do not even believe in like the concept of a free will, just like the illusion of it. But that's like obviously, right? Like if you believe in that, then you might think about this differently, right? Like I cannot see how like some, let's call it like soul or like the essence of oneself can create actions, right? Because that would kind of break the laws of physics, because like everything we are doing is basically to very much reduce it to the very basic form. It is basically just electric impulses, right? Like if I want to move my hand, I have to get like the electric impulses that control my muscles, and they have to start somewhere. And obviously they start in my brain, but like all of that together, there's some process that decided that this happens. Basically just like a lot of chemical reactions. I'm gonna just like summarize that very briefly. This is at least like how I understand life and how I interpret a lot of stuff. Which also means that there's like no real space where like you could just magically like impact those. So like free will in that sense, I don't really believe in. This is like where I'm coming from, because I feel like this is important. So I do not think that the concept of myself would really change in that sense, right? Like what would it mean to be a robot? Like how many parts of you would have to be replaced for you to first of all like no longer be classified as a human but as a cyborg, and then even more to be like a robot? Because like if you really think about it, again, like you're a biochemical machine, there's like they're technically assuming in this concept that you're like some super advanced AI, that there is functionally no difference between like your theoretically fleshy parts that you could have had and like the robotic parts, or like the metallic parts, I'm assuming, that you have in that. So I don't really think that it would change in that sense. And in both cases, right, like again, this is going back to like the free will kind of thing, right? Like let's say I want to move my hand here, right? Like did I make that decision, or is there like some biochemical process that decided that? Is that different from like proper programming that would make me decide on this action? I don't know. I would say no, actually. To me personally, right? Like again, this is like a part of my interpretation of like how I see life. So I don't think that there would be a massive difference, and I do not think my understanding would change in that sense. Because like here's the interesting thing. Like you could argue it would be like really interesting, because that would be like kind of the proof that you would like kind of need to really determine that humans are just biochemical machines, right? Like, because obviously, right, like a lot of the stuff is in here somewhat speculation. Even like my saying that there can't be free will in that sense is also just like speculation about like how, like stemming from the fact of my understanding of the world, basically. But there's like no real way for me to prove that, right? Like I couldn't prove that other peoples also have like a consciousness, right? I have a consciousness, right? Like I think I have a consciousness, but I can only observe how other people behave, and I can assume that they are also conscious, right? But they could also be like being like really hyperbolic here, but they could also just be like let's call them soulless objects, right? That just behave in like some way. How would I know? Same with like the robot instance here, right? Like you think you have a consciousness, right? But like assume you were like that robot. How would you know that your experience is the same as that of like other, like either robots or other humans? You really couldn't do that because again, like you only have like your consciousness and you can only perceive what, well, you yourself perceive, right? Like you can't just transfer your consciousness into another body to feel like if they also have a consciousness or something like that. So I don't think a lot would change in that sense. Obviously, like my worldview would kind of change just for the fact that suddenly there would be like some advanced AI apparently, like some advanced group of people or whatever it would have been, or like an AI that could create robots that are so human-like that people can easily mistake them for them. But again, I don't feel like this would change what I think about myself in that sense. But again, like I'm not in a theoretical situation, makes it kind of hard. This is just like me thinking about like cold, hard facts, but I feel like not coming from the place you always thought you came from would be weird. But I feel like this is, and again, like I'm just gonna throw this out here because I obviously do not have that experience, but I'm imagining this is a lot closer to like people figuring out or like finding out later on in life that they were adopted, for example, right? Like in that sense. Again, like I don't have experience with that, so maybe I'm talking out of my ass here, but I'm just talking about like the fact that you thought you knew where you came from, and then there was actually another origin. Especially in this thing, right? They're talking about like being created in a lab, right? Like your parents, apparently they didn't know. I don't know how they didn't know that you were created in a lab, but again, those are like some weird questions, I guess. Anyway, I feel like I talked way too long about this. I also feel like this is part of like what you would do here. Anyway, human machine. So for the ARGH solution. Like alternate reality game and then an H. I don't know what the H would stand for. From Bob Rakowski to 108 recipients. A subject, Grog. All these calm people are driving me mad. Have they all suddenly turned into Buddha or something? I didn't know the world had such reserves and serenity. Though these latter-day governments are at least being somewhat realistic. You know what's even worse? Those paranoid nutters who are building bunkers and collecting guns. What are they gonna do? Shoot shit through... I don't know, shoot what? Though I have to admit the overall response has been much better than I ever anticipated, to the point where I might be moved by the beauty of humanity if I wasn't such a grumpy old fart. This minority of total idiots is really messing up my final days. Why final days? I mean, you're talking about being grumpy old farts, so in that sense, right? Like at the end of your life, but I don't know. Unless it's like due to sickness, I feel like it's always kind of hard to re-judge where your final days are. Unless it's like pre-planned, I'm gonna call it. I don't know. Like maybe I'm just reading too much in here. Maybe it's just like metaphorical that while there isn't like a clear end of life, I'm gonna call it, that he seems to just call it that. Anyway. What a fitting anyway. The reason I'm writing is because I refuse to believe in scenarios with absolutely no solutions. If we all put our heads together, we can figure something out. Okay, now I'm kind of confused. Okay, you're complaining that people basically calmed down because it suddenly turned into Buddha. So... Maybe I'm onto something, actually. I might be, like, grasping a little bit here, like, grasping at a very far away straw, but Okay, I'm thinking of like another story here. So just wait for a second. So like what I am thinking of is basically there might be like, I'm gonna call it like some apocalypse far, far in the past, right? We have not seen humans yet. We've only seen like ourselves, our robots, right? And we've heard the voice of Elohim. So what if there was like something coming and that was like a big problem that they were all working on, right? Because they're talking especially here about like the final days, right? Like there's like some planet wiping extinction event like in 2 weeks or something like that, and everyone was working towards that. And people at this point maybe gave up in a sense, or like resigned to their fate, assumed that this was inevitable and just calmed down and spent their life not worrying, or like the last few days of their life were not worrying, right? Like this would definitely fit in like the contrast that the other one's talking about, like the bunker builders, right? Like if it's again like an extinction event, like the bunker is not going to help. And maybe it's not actually talking about like shoot shit. Maybe I would say the T and $$ might just mean something else. Maybe this is actually what they're talking about, like the event, but G-R-A-R-G-H. I'm gonna write that down. I feel like this probably has some meaning. A-R-G-H. Like the ARG part is like the only thing that I instantly thought about, like the alternate reality games, right? Like when you have like a game, but like pieces of the solution and like pieces of the puzzles themselves are actually not hidden in the game, and you have to go like to different websites or like actually real life locations sometimes to figure out like pieces. This was like the first thing that I thought about, but obviously since the acronym seems to be a lot longer, I'm guessing I'm quite wrong on that one. I could talk to the MLA again. Unable to open a support session. The library assistant software is busy elsewhere? Okay, can exit that one. Is this First of all, can I read this here? I can. Oh, area 01? Area 02 extra. Oh. So I'm guessing the first terminal that we saw is probably like the non-extra. It's just like the terminal 2. Which would make sense. I'm kind of lost now. I was just like exploring the island. And we're also kind of reaching the end of the episode. But I kind of want to see if I can at least go around this island once. Also, I kind of want to see. Can I go into this water? Seems to be getting deep quite quickly. Yeah, this is where you start talking again. This isn't far enough, right? Like if I got like a little bit closer, I might be willing to try to run over there, but I'm guessing we're just gonna get teleported back. Which, by the way, fine, right? Like, I don't have to break the bounds of this game yet. At least for now, right? Like, I might have to do that later. From here, this looked kind of like a seal, just for a moment. Alas, I was wrong. Like this one rock looked like whiskers like that in the front, and there's a snout kind of looking out of the water. Like more trees there. I still think it's really funny that like zooming in. I'm guessing the when I'm zooming in, the camera is actually moving forward, which is why more trees are loading in the background. But it's just like me thinking as someone who likes thinking about game development and stuff. Anyway, let's see if I can see something else here. I feel like we are going to have to look into the center next time. There's like another one of those statues. The pathways are also kind of interesting here. Obviously they are going... wait, this is technically not really pathway, right? It's just like shorter dirt. Over here, this is actually the pathway, and here it kind of stops and just goes into the sandy area of the beach. Okay, that makes more sense, right? Like this is not a planned pathway around, it's just the beach area. Makes a lot more sense, I would say. Okay, I feel like we are reaching the other end here. Oh, we can read something else. We got stuck on this tree. Huh. I just want to see if I can... Wait, I started over here, right? Like this island over there is like the one where I first... Yeah, did that. Okay, you're actually teleporting quite far back if you're actually trying to run there. Interesting, interesting. Okay, I would say that was the first loop around the second area here. Can I want to read those though? Okay, those I can read. Both of them. Okay. Something strange has come into the world, like distortion, like something that's not supposed to exist. A beautiful voice speaks within it. Okay, by Bob version 25.5.0736. By the way, it would be cool if I could read like all of those logs here as well. I don't think I can. That a voice is not supposed to be here. It is not the work of the designer. We must avoid these abnormalities, or they might spread and undermine the very fabric of our world. 1W Faith. Oh! Interesting, because we've had another Faith one before, so... someone more cautious about the voice, the other one more accepting. Maybe there were like obviously there were like multiple AIs in this world. Maybe testing like how they react over time, because like since those are quite like that voice is not supposed to be here, it's like a talk like here, and they're talking about like something strange has come into the world. I'm guessing they're talking about like after the arrival, so this is probably like chronologically quite close together. Interesting. Obviously with like Bob being the previous one, or like the first writer here, and 1W Faith being the other one. Okay, I can work with that. Okay, now let me find the teleporter again, just so I have like starting point in just a moment. Also, we hadn't seen like the amphitheater. Is that also how you call it in English? I always forget it. But it's like one of those open theaters. Kinda neat. Maybe I can see something from higher up if I can make that jump. Okay, I can. Let's see. I can't actually jump up here. Huh. At least we can see some stuff. Anyway, I would say let's end it here. This has been a very lore-heavy episode again. Next time we're actually going to solve some puzzles. I feel like this is probably a good mix. Also, I'm gonna read whatever's on that first terminal, actually. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the episode and my ranting about like philosophical topics. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll be seeing you next time. Till then, have a good one and bye-bye.